everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today's episode. I'm Shivani Ranganatha, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Saahithi Sreekantham, a Rice University student majoring in English and political science who's interested in going into criminal law. Saahithi, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's wonderful. Before we get into law and your future goals, let's start with some background so listeners can get to know you. Let's start with the basics. Can you start by introducing yourself, your name, and what you're studying at Rice and what year you're in?
Yeah, so my name is Saahithi. Like you mentioned earlier, I'm studying English and political science at Rice, and I also have a minor in PLST that stands for Politics, Law, and Social Thought. It's something a lot of the political science, social policy analysis, and pre-law majors do. And I'm a sophomore right now, and I'm from McMurtry College. If you know anything about Rice, we kind of define ourselves based off of our residential college system. So for me, I'm from McMurtry, so that's pretty important, best college in my opinion. So.
That's wonderful. Now thinking about how that path began, what originally drew you to a major in English and political science?
That's a great question, actually. So I have always kind of known that I wanted to do law. Coming into high school, I was pretty dead set on law. The thing is, I wasn't really like thinking coming into high school what major I was doing. I just kind of knew my interests. So before high school, I loved English. I loved creative writing and I got Student of the Year awards. So I was like, okay, there's something I'm good at and it's not math, but it's
Mhm.
something. And I was like, I really enjoy reading. Like I've been reading my whole life. So English was always something kind of like on the side, but I never really thought of it as my career or a major. And then I kind of gained political sentience in 2020. And that's kind of when I was like, oh, like I'm actually really interested in political science. Before that, before all of this, I wanted to be a veterinarian, like a wildlife veterinarian for like 12 years. And like I was dead. I was like, I'm going to UC Davis. I'm going to study hematology this summer. Like I was ready. And then quarantine happened and I guess I just kind of flipped. And when I got to school in sophomore year of high school, so that's when we went off of quarantine, I realized that, like political science and activism is something that I'm really passionate about. So I started doing a lot of extracurriculars in that field. I joined mock trial because I knew I wanted to be a lawyer, but I wasn't exactly sure what skills I had, gained a lot of public speaking skills, and then English kind of like happened. I will say my parents are not a huge fan of the English major. I mean, we do have Asian parents and they're like, "What are you doing?" But they know I'm going to law school with it. And they also know that it's helping me a lot. English reading, writing skills are probably the most useful thing you can have before law school. So,
Absolutely. I especially relate to that since I like throughout my life, even now, I know I wanted to go into law. And I think that's what I'm going to do in my extracurriculars are like lying towards that. So I'm
yeah.
hoping like not a big switch will happen, but it's good to see that even if a big switch happens, it's okay and you can pivot at any time.
Yeah.
One thing I've always been curious about is the why aspect for many lawyers or law students, as maybe it can inspire some of our listeners. So, going back to when it first started, when did you realize you were interested in law? Was it a typical conversation or like a moment? I know you mentioned quarantine, but was there like a catalyst to it?
Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned a big switch because I feel like most of the time my parents were like, okay, this is the girl who's known what she's wanted since she came
Hmm.
in. So it's like a big switch from like when I was in middle school to high school. But then once I like settled on it, I was very settled. And I guess what kind of it wasn't really like one specific incident. Definitely, like I mentioned, like quarantine, seeing everything that was happening politically, that definitely changed my opinion on what I wanted to study while I was in college. But in terms of law, I have always been a person who is very, this is a very generic word, but people describe me a lot as passionate. I don't believe that anything worth doing isn't worth doing well. Like if I'm choosing to do something, I'm going to put my all into it. And the reason I want to go into criminal law, again, to the chagrin of my parents, who really want me to go into something safer and that makes more money, I want to go into criminal law to help people. And I mean, I mean, everyone always says that. Like, you see pre-med, you see pre-law, you even see business. Like, you see all of them saying, "I just want to help people." And I'm not saying that that's necessarily something that doesn't happen, but a lot of the time, people end up getting swept up into the field, and then they realize that it's not always the most prudent or practical thing to do. For me, I've kind of started realizing that, but I also have always been the kind of person where my job satisfaction relies heavily on the fact that I'm making an impact on people. Even the internships I'm currently doing, if I'm not seeing an impact on the people that I'm working with, I don't want to do it and I don't feel the need to do it. So I guess if anyone's considering pre-law, I would say you don't necessarily have to be like a die-hard fan of any sort of law. You don't even really need to want to have to help people, but if you are interested in having like a field that like sets your soul on fire, like, and you really do want to help people, I would say criminal law is the way to go. And I would say if you're choosing to go into a field that requires so much patience, so much energy, and you see so much pain all the time, make sure you love it because it's going to be hard. I have not even gotten to law school and I've seen a lot of hard things in my internships. And it really does take a lot of passion and love in order for you to get through that.
Absolutely. And this is so heartfelt because I've seen again many people want to go into corporate law, things that kind of make money and are safe, but it's so inspiring to see someone who equally wants to make an impact on our society. And I know our parents are always like, keep the safe route. I
The
especially relate
money.
to that.
Yeah.
But it's good to see that you're expressing your own voice. And again, that's so inspiring. I'm really glad that we got to have this podcast because I've not seen many people like that. But sometimes academics is a big factor, but going beyond that, is there something that you witnessed or something that happened in your community that influenced your desire to pursue law?
So, to pursue law specifically, I mean, my own experiences would probably be high school mock trial. That definitely changed my experiences. I came in as like a horrible, horrible public speaker, and I came out being president. And since I've gotten to Rice, I've won a few awards at state competitions. And I never thought I would be good at public speaking in high school. I was like, what? Like me? Like I freak out before every presentation, and I still do, but you learn a lot of skills when people put you in the most embarrassing situations of your life and tell you to suck it up. So I would say that kind of made my interest in pursuing law more concrete just because I realized, okay, like I could actually be good at this. When it came to like law itself, I think I wrote a research paper in freshman year of high school, actually, it's the same age as you. And it was about rape and sexual assault victims in the justice system, which is, I do a lot of work with domestic violence and sexual abuse victims. It's just something I've always been passionate about. And I did this research paper to see a lot of people will be like, why don't sexual assault victims just report? Why don't they just report? Why don't they just get justice? It's not that hard. Like they're just being silent. And I was like, there is no way that every single woman or even just a person who has gotten sexually assaulted just doesn't want to say anything about it. Like there is a reason behind it. So I did that research paper and I found out a lot about the justice system. There are so many barriers to a sexual assault victim, not just reporting, but also just getting through the justice system, through prosecutors, through police officers, through the jury, through the judge. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And I think because of that, I kind of knew in that like niche that there were a lot of people, a lot of minority communities as well that just don't get the amount of representation they needed. And they don't really have prosecutors who care as much about them as they do about their own record. And I mean, you'll hear this a lot. The justice system is broken. And the more I study it, the more I realize that. And I mean, there's also something that a professor once told me. I took a class at Columbia in high school, and she worked with Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she would tell me that RBG, I believe it was RBG who once told her that it's not the justice system that's broken, it's the people in it. And that made me realize we need more people who actually care about who's going through the justice system and who don't come in with like this entire set of prejudices against the cases that they're working with and who only come in for the looks or for the cases or for the record. And so I think just studying all of that is what really drew me to law. It wasn't one particular incident, I would say it was multiple for sure.
That is so eye-opening to hear. And again, I especially relate because in eighth grade, I think I'm in youth and government. So I made a bill about abortion and how it's a right and stuff. So I especially relate since this is something I'm equally as passionate about. And it's so good to see someone pursue it and see how it's being equally represented in the world because it's scary. These sort of topics are scary and you could be shamed on because of it. So it's again inspiring and eye-opening to hear that it's being presented into the world with an open mind and open heart. College plays a big role again in shaping interests and preparing you for your future. I know many students who have like switched major because they realize something new is in college. So I have to ask you, what's your experience so far?
I have not had that experience. I love my majors. I think
Okay.
I selected the perfect thing for me, and I went to a very STEM focused high school, so I was probably the only like I went and I applied to Rice as a poli sci major. And I actually, long story, but I did not want to go to Rice. So it was definitely like by an off chance that I ended up there. In fact, in eighth grade, my sister was considering going to Rice, and I came to the campus with her, and I was like, I am not going here. The people here are way too nice. They're up to something. I don't like it.
Oh
And
my
lo and
goodness.
behold, where I ended up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have always loved my majors. I mean, I came in knowing I was going to double major in poli sci and English. I wasn't entirely sure about the English part just because my parents were so against it, but you gotta rebel a little bit. So I was like, I'm going to probably stick with that. And I would say my experience has been just incredible. I mean, one thing about Rice is we have one of the foremost public policy institutes in the country. So it's called Baker Institute of Public Policy. We don't have a public policy major. What we have is called social policy analysis. And honestly, I have no clue what it is. I don't know too much about it, but I'm assuming it's like the public policy major. But you can still do things in the Public Policy Institute as a poli sci major. So I've participated in competitions. I've learned things. There's internships and jobs you can do. They do give preference to SOPA majors. That's what they call social policy analysis, but it's still pretty cool. It's just a little bit more of the analysis, I would say, oriented and a little bit more about demographics, maybe like gerrymandering, things like that. And there's a bit of more of a sociology aspect to it from what I've heard. I've never been super interested in that. I'm a strict poli sci girl because there's some really great pre-law classes. Like I think it was last spring, I took American constitutional law. Now, I'm a nerd for this kind of stuff, so I was geeking out this entire class. I was like, I love this class. Our final paper was insane. I'm pretty sure I wrote like 3,000 words in the span of an hour and a half because of our final. It was insane, but I loved it. It was so fun. And like me and my friends are like always studying for our courses together. This semester I took a lot more English classes. I will say I love English, but I kind of miss the poli sci. I miss the law. I think I just need a balance of both at all times, otherwise I'm not happy. And I took a history of love class, so we just studied love poetry through the ages, which was beautiful. And I took Latin in high school, so when we stopped on like Ovid's Metamorphoses or the Aeneid, I was like, yes, I was built for this class. So I think I have a love for everything I've been doing, and that is probably the best part for me about Rice. I mean, I was talking with my roommate about this. We did a lot of stuff in high school and we got pretty burnt out. I mean, I know I got burnt out, but that was also because I wasn't doing things I was very passionate about. Like obviously my work outside of school was very like hard work and like I think I did make a big impact. But inside of school taking AP physics was the worst time of my life and I did not want to be there. And same with AP calculus. And not that those aren't learned skills that are important. And I mean, I have referenced AP biology in my mock trial cases multiple times. And I'm really glad for the fact that my school made me take all of those. But it doesn't change the fact that I did get burnt out because I didn't love the things I was doing. But at Rice, knowing that I'm like obsessed with all the work I'm doing, there is not a class I haven't enjoyed except for a couple professors. But like overall, I have loved everything I'm doing. I've loved the work I've done inside and outside of school. And I'm not saying it's impossible to get burnt out when you love the things you're doing, but it's a lot harder because you just want to keep doing it. So.
That's amazing to hear that you love everything you're doing, which it's like a diamond in the rough. Like I don't see many people who love what they're doing. And essentially like loving English and all this stuff is something that's so eye-opening because law is English. You're reading briefs,
It
you're
really
reading
is,
all
yeah.
these things, especially if you're a clerk, you that's all you do. So
Mhm.
that's great to hear. But since you're majoring in English and you love it, how have they helped you explore your legal interests further?
Yeah, so like I mentioned with poli sci, I took a lot of law classes. So American constitutional law, race and race in the United States, I think was the name of the class, but it was like constitutional law specifically about race. So like Brown v. Board, things like that. That was a very broad example. I think my professor would be upset that I only took Brown v. Board, but there were a lot of cases that we did there. And since then, I think I've just taken like a mix of classes as well. So I just finished my gender and politics class. So we learned a lot about why women are underrepresented in the political field.
Mm.
And that obviously is not exactly like a law specific thing. So I wouldn't say it helps me like further in law, but it helps me learn a lot. And most lawyers, as you probably know, do end up as politicians. I personally don't know if I'm going to do that. That seems a little out of my wheelhouse. I like
Mm.
watching politics and talking about it. I don't think I'll participate in it, but or like participate in it in that way. Obviously, I vote for the listeners.
Okay.
Obviously, I vote. I hope,
Good.
I hope you guys, I vote, I promise. But I think poli sci is just like a very broad area. There are a couple like law things that you can take, and then everything else is kind of just very pushed towards that political science part, obviously,
Mm.
because it's the poli sci major. In terms of English, there's absolutely no pre-law classes as an English major, pretty much. But I think the skills I've learned are really, really cool. I took one of our intro to English classes at the same time I was taking American constitutional law, or we call it con law. And when I was in that English class, my professor would be like taking apart one little word into like syllables and explaining why the syllables make it more important than if the author had used a different word. Then I walked into my con law class and one of the Supreme Court justices will use like maybe instead of certainly. And I will be stuck on that word for like an hour. And every single time I'm arguing with my friends about what the actual decision should have been, I refer to a precedent and I'm like, they said maybe,
Mm.
they said might, they said this. And they're like, can you stop? And I'm like, no, because in English, they teach you how important that one word is. And in law, they teach you that too. But I think that's more of a law school thing than a poli sci thing. But English has really like emphasized that for me, the importance of one little word. So yeah, it's not directly into law, but it has taught me a lot that I've applied in my law classes.
Interesting. Again, learning how to pick apart words, especially because right now in my government class, we're learning about precedent, and I'm currently in mock trial too. So
Mm,
we're learning about
you're
all,
me. I see
yeah.
myself. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm glad. But this gives me insight because maybe I need to start picking apart words. This is so insightful to see. And again, in the courtroom, I'm assuming when you're standing in the courtroom, you need everything that you can get to
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
When
convince
you
your
when you're
judge.
arguing objections, you know what a judge loves? Picking apart words. I mean,
Oh.
we were arguing a hearsay objection for our case, and I think it was like it said something about statements made on video, but then there were
Oh.
no statements on the video. Like no one said anything on the video, and I was like, "Well, Your Honor, like no statements were made on the video. It's not hearsay." And then like it was just like it was a really fun argument. And like if you and they're like, what is the statement then? Or for example, when you're responding to a hearsay objection, one thing we used a lot last year is questions have no truth value. So they don't fit the definition of hearsay.
Mm.
Um, the truth of the matter asserted. If you're asking a question, you're not asserting something true. Now, we kind of got for that objection battle. Like judges stopped liking that as much, but it's just such an interesting concept to debate.
Mm.
And it ends up going like, instead of arguing the objection for like case law, we end up arguing the objection on like philosophy of words, which I just think is so funny.
Yeah,
So,
because technically body language is a statement, the way you
yeah,
dress is a statement. There's so
exactly.
many ways to interpret it, which is one reason why I love law because there's so many perspectives. And I believe
I love it so
anyone could go.
much.
Yeah, anyone can go into law. That's why I mainly created this podcast because it's no stigma. Everyone has a place in this field.
Mhm.
But additional to mock trial, I know you've done that. Is there any other activities that you did in high school or even college that help you shape your legal journey?
Yeah, so in high school, I worked for the governor of Arizona. That was not exactly law, again, a little more poli sci, but I worked on the governor's youth commission. I was chair of the domestic violence work group. So there we did a lot of really good work for domestic violence shelters across Arizona. We held donation drives, we did statewide awareness campaigns, lighting Arizona purple, writing proclamations for the governor. Oh, I don't know if we mentioned I'm from Arizona. I'm from Arizona.
Okay.
That's where I am right now. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, so we did a lot of work there. That was definitely important to me. The research paper, like I mentioned, I'm kind of blanking. Oh, forgot about. I was editor-in-chief of my school newspaper. That was actually one of the biggest things. I love journalism. My original like thought, had it not been for the instability of the journalism industry, was I would actually be a law correspondent or some sort of journalist, writing on, for example, Supreme Court cases, current precedent, and things like that. That would be like my dream, but I fear it's a little unstable, especially right now. However, I do have a little bit of love for journalism that has never gone away. So, editor-in-chief of my school newspaper. Since I've gotten to Rice, mock trial team I've been on. I joined my first year. They made me team captain in my second semester, and I have been in love with mock trial since forever. I will say for anybody who's listening, who's in college, who's pre-law, you do not have to do mock trial. I mean, most of the people I know who ended up going to the top Ivy schools from Rice did not do mock trial. It's definitely only if you really, really enjoy it. I personally love it. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I'm not sure how to recommend it for high school. I would say do mock trial in high school, regardless of whether or not you want to go into law, just because it's good to show public speaking skills. There's obviously other options you can take, but I think mock trial is one of the best. But yeah, I think for college, if you are still like, if you're considering law school, again, I'm not super senior experienced or anything like
Mm,
that, but for anyone listening at Rice, at least, you do not have to do mock trial to get into a top law school. It's just not necessary. Do it if you love it.
mhm,
I'm also a writer on the Rice Thresher. I'm president of TEDx Rice U. So we host a flagship event at the end of the year where we have speakers from the Houston community and from Rice. They come in and they give TED Talks. We record it. We send it to the big TED organization. That's something we started like revamping this year, and I have a partner in that, and we're working on it right now. So it's actually, we're kind of like in that little middle zone right now for
mm.
TEDx. I do a couple other things, just like a handful of things. I wouldn't, I'm not going to go into them because they're a little nitty gritty, but I've also done internships. So this fall, I worked for an immigration law attorney slash criminal defense attorney. It was like a 12-hour a week internship. He is very, very like, he lets his interns be very, very involved. So I actually got to work one-on-one with clients, and I got to prepare adjustment of status case filings. One thing that I'm going to warn you about, and probably everyone, when you're in high school and sometimes when you're in college, if you are pre-law, they're not going to pay you for the most part, and they're not going to let you do anything. Like they are not gonna let you touch most things. They're just gonna you're kind of just there. And I'm not
Oh,
saying like it shouldn't go on your resume or that people only do it for the resume, but personally, I don't want to go into immigration law, but this was one of the best internship experiences I've ever had because he actually let us do things. My other internship experiences were good, obviously, but
mm.
I didn't feel like I was making an impact. So I'm just gonna warn everyone now, like if you're going into an internship thinking, "Oh my God, I'm gonna make such a big difference," you're probably not. Love you though, but you're probably
Yeah.
not. So,
Good disclaimer since I've heard like you give coffee, but it's good that to see that you were one of the few lucky spots to actually make an impact in our internship. So would you say that an internship is more about seeing the environment and seeing what lawyers do, or do you think you should look for an internship where you actually get to be involved?
so definitely always look for an internship where you want to be involved if you want to kind of know what law school is about, if or just being a lawyer. But if you're a high schooler, you're probably not gonna see much. I mean, they're not very nice to undergrad either. They really only want law students. So I would say, I mean, they like the undergrad, but I would say we're more on paid labor for the most part. But I mean,
Mm.
okay, this is a message to my future employers who are seeing this. Please pay me, like I promise. I'm a good laborer. But yeah, in high school, I would say it's a great like shadowing experience, or at least that's what I did my internship in high school. I also got really lucky with my mentor there though, and he helped me do like a research project. He gave us a lot of good hands-on experience.
Mm.
And so I would say it really does depend on the area. And he was like our mock trial coach as well, which is kind of why I got the internship and why I got so much experience with him. So for high school, it's a little bit different depending on where you are, but if you get like an internship that doesn't pay you and you just shadow people, it's fine. It's actually fine. Like that's
Okay.
probably the most you're
Good
gonna
to
get out of
know.
it. And
Absolutely. Because
yeah,
I know if I went into an internship and I was just there, I would feel a little down. But it's good to see that everyone
very
goes through this
normal.
and it's just a part of, our legal, like a
Yeah,
legal career or what to
right.
pursue.
And
So
always ask
next,
questions. So
huh?
always ask questions because you
Oh,
can make
yeah.
it so cool. You can shadow them and still make stuff out of it.
Definitely. So one of the things I'm really curious about, or I want to know what's the biggest shock academically and socially between high school and then college?
Hmm. So this is a hard question because I had a very, I think, unique experience where my high school was like 80 kids in our graduating class, and I've known all of them since like fifth grade. Um,
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
came from a social experiment, yeah. We did not have like a high school or football team. Our HOCO games were centered around basketball. We didn't have a dance team. I did dance outside of school. Yeah, it was just, it was a social experiment, high school, I can't lie. And I came to college just wanting to escape because yes, I made good friends in high school and I still talk to them, but it was it was traumatizing. I mean, I don't know if you've actually heard of the bases schools. I'm sure there's a couple being set up in Texas right now, but they're very famous in Arizona and we are a series of charter schools and I come from one of the bases schools and they're just they're schools. I mean, yeah, like they're social experiment schools, or at least the one I came from is insane for that. And very smart STEM-oriented schools. I mean, you have to take 7 APs by the time you graduate. Most people end up or by the time you're done with junior year, actually. Most people end up taking more than 12. I knew people who took 22. My sister took above 20, or maybe above. Actually, don't cite me on that. I don't remember, but it's a lot of work. But and it burns you out, like I mentioned earlier. So I came into college like, yes, thank God, I'm done with this. And Rice is a very small school. It's still like 4,000 undergrad. And I remember people telling me, if you don't like small schools and you come from a small school, don't go there. Like I was debating between this and University of Michigan, which is like a lot more undergrad. And so they were like, you don't like small schools. I was like, no, I don't. And they were like, then go to University of Michigan. And I was like, but Rice isn't going to feel small to me after 80 kids. It's going to feel big. And since I've been there, it actually does feel big, which I know a lot of people will be like, "What?" And my high school was 4,000 people, and I'm like, "Oh my God, 4,000 people exist in the world? That's crazy." So for me, I I love Rice. I think I haven't really been like shocked, I guess, because I've been really lucky with my college experience. I made probably the best friends I could ever ask for. Half of them will be at my wedding, and the other half will probably egg my wedding. And I'm specifically referring to my male friends with that one. But I think like all of high school was just such a time that I had that college was going to be good no matter where I went.
Mm.
Maybe the biggest shock is living on your own.
Yeah.
Because I discovered a lot of things about myself. Like, I never thought I was a very clean person. Since I've gotten to college, I've been so clean. And when you have such a small, like, dorm space, at least it's good. It's not a bad thing. At least I'm not discovering I'm dirty. But
Okay.
you'll learn a lot of things about yourself, a lot of things about roommates. And I think I think the biggest shock for me is I like spending alone time. I can get drained pretty easily. And like when I get drained, I get nonverbal, sorry. But it happens. And the thing is with college is it's one big social activity. So the good thing is that I've gotten used to it and now I can be social for a lot longer than I used to be, but it doesn't change the fact that you get pretty exhausted.
Definitely. Right now in my school, our class is 450 people. I used to go to Capel High School, which was like I think like 1,000 people for
Yeah.
graduating class. So
Yeah.
I definitely come from the bigger school and it's good to see two perspectives of a small school versus big school. And additionally, I'm seeing my peers take like 5 APs, like 3 APs freshman year, which is crazy to me. So it's good to see that necessarily you need a few APs, but it's not really instrumental. Or is it instrumental?
I would say, so I kind of have a weird perspective on this because my school forced us to. So
Mm.
I took 4 APs in ninth grade, I fear.
Oh,
Because my school made us, and it's like it's required. So for example, AP US government, we have to take in ninth grade. And then we had a requirement that you had to take two AP sciences. So I took AP Bio and AP Physics 1. And we don't have
freshman
like
year?
oh no, 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 no.
Okay.
That was my junior year. Or
Okay.
AP Bio was my sophomore year, AP Physics was my junior year. Freshman year, it was AP US government, AP Computer Science Principles. Because my dad made me, by the way, don't do that, guys. I didn't want to take that.
Yeah, my mom was encouraging me to do that, but I was like, it has nothing to do with my career path.
You know, literally. There was two more. I have no clue. I don't remember anything from high school. I can't lie. I blacked it out. But a lot of people were taking AP
Mm.
Calc in. freshman year because my school was just crazy. Like I had people take AP Calc in eighth grade actually, and we were forced to take, well, they stopped it during our year, but the year before us, we were actually supposed to take AP World History during eighth grade. They make you take econ during eighth grade so that you already get that out of the way. The goal for my school was to get all of your credits out of the way by the end of junior year, and then your senior year, you take these things called AP capstones. Those were actually pretty cool because they let you take some crazy classes because we had like doctors and professors at my school. So like they would teach
Oh.
like organic chemistry, which is
Mm.
not something you see in high school. I took financial mathematics and like vertebrate zoology. You don't see that in most places. So
Yeah.
you get really lucky in that sense. But yeah, I would say I don't have too much to say on how important it is just because for us it was just like normal. It was just what we had to do. From what I remember from undergrad admissions, as long as you're taking as many classes or as much of the classes as your school offers, like as long as you're taking up what they offer, I think you're fine. Because what colleges want to see is that you're doing all the work you can. If your school offers two APs and you've taken both of those two APs, it's not your fault that your school doesn't offer more, and schools will know that. But if your school offers, my school offered 24 APs and you took three, which we they wouldn't have let you graduate if you only took three. But if you had somehow managed to graduate only getting three, they won't like that because it's like you had all of these options and you chose not to do them. So,
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have a balance. I think the main message is having a balance between APs and not burning yourself out, which is extremely
exactly.
important, especially in high school, right? Um, the next question I have is, what is it about criminal law that draws you more than other types of law, like corporate or environmental or even constitutional law? Because I see that you have some classes like that.
It's a hard question, or not a hard question, I guess. I know why. I want to help people, and like that's always been like my biggest thing. Not that you can't help people in those other fields, which is kind of the question I get because people are like, well, okay, corporate law is kind of understandable. It's harder to help people unless you're supporting, for example, small business owners or trying to get people tax breaks, things like that,
Mm.
or helping people who are barely staying afloat, bankruptcy law, for example. Those are some examples, but I think. I also am really in it for the high stakes game, which sounds really bad because I know it's not a game, but I like the idea that my skill set is what is going to really matter at the end of the day. Like,
Mm.
it's a lot of pressure, but I want to know that the work I'm doing is actually changing someone's life. Not that, again, not that these other aspects of law don't change someone's life, but criminal has a very, very clear and intense impact. When it comes to like constitutional law, I mean, the other thing is that you don't have to pick one field of law and stick with it forever. And I definitely won't. I mean, most people switch around. Some people, I would say, if you go into corporate, it's hard to switch into criminal. If you go into criminal, from what I've heard, you can probably end up switching into corporate because, for example, white collar crime is like a is an intersection of that. But
Mm.
criminal law is so different from corporate that it's a little bit harder to pick up had you not gone to law school and studied it. So for me, I'm probably gonna end up doing criminal and then probably touch on constitutional just because I really like it. I think it's appellate litigation that it's called.
Ooh, yeah.
And I'd probably do something along those lines just for fun, just for kicks. I don't know how it works at all. And I'd probably just like pull up and be like, hey, y'all want to hire me? Like, I'm down and see what happens. But I mean, yeah, I kind of know criminal at least is where I'm gonna start. So when I say I'm
Mm.
criminal, I mean at some point in my life that is dead set. The only reason I don't say the other things is because I'm not dead set on them and I don't know
Mm.
like if I had to choose a specialization, it would be criminal. But since luckily law school does not make you choose one
Yeah.
specific, I'm probably gonna do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, one of the great things about having a diversified like major in English and political science and I think like socio like you
Social policy, I don't have that
so
one, but yeah,
okay,
people.
okay, something along that line is that you have so many options and whenever you graduate into college, I'm sure you can apply into many sort of things and see what you like and what you want to pursue, which is a great thing to see and hear instead of like putting your interest into one little hole, right? Definitely. Law school, I'm sure, is a very intimidating thing for students, especially me, because I feel like law school, like, oh, LSAT at the bar, like, oh my gosh. But it's since the LSAT is one of the most rigorous exams, it makes me really curious about how you feel. So, talking about one of the biggest steps, how do you feel about taking the LSAT, and have you started preparing? Have
You
you
touched
started?
on my trigger word.
Oh,
The outside. No, you're good. It's been huge topic of conversation with me and my pre-law friends right now, and we're all like, no, the LSAT. I actually have to start preparing, so I'm planning to spend this break doing like some diagnostic stuff.
Mm.
Honestly, I'm a little bit like not there yet, so I don't have too much to say because my most recent experience with standardized testing was the SAT and ACT, I fear. So I don't have too much on how I'm gonna prep. I'm still in the process. I don't know how important it is to get a tutor. I don't know if I should just Khan Academy it out. I don't even know what my diagnostic score is yet. So it's kind of in between there. I'm actually probably going to talk to some of my older friends about LSAT, so I can definitely follow up if I learn anything. I will say it's terrifying. The LSAT and GPA are the most important factors for law school. I mean, a lot of people will tell you in undergrad, even if you don't have the GPA or the SAT, sometimes your resume can put you over that. For the most part, is probably not true for law school. If you don't
Okay.
have either of those things, you're pretty much cooked, which is horrible. I know, and I hate saying that, but I mean, it's my life too. So I'm just here waiting for that. But I think the LSAT is it's also changed. I don't know if you heard about it. They used to have like logic games. They took that off, I think, because of something about how it's harder for people who are blind or people who have visual disabilities to understand, which I mean, hallelujah for me, because those logic games took so much out of my brain. But I think some people I know are taking logic classes in high school. They made us take it in middle school. I don't remember anything, but I remember I wasn't good at it. So I have just avoided that for the sake of my GPA and also because I'm not passionate about learning logic. But I mean, I've heard that it helps people on the LSAT. I will say, honestly, it's probably about as much work as you put in is what you're going to get out of it. So if you're
Okay.
a hard worker and logic can be learned. I mean, yeah, some people are inherently more logical than others. I have an electrical engineering friend, and he was like, I'm so curious what the LSAT is like. Can we do a problem? And he mogged me. He did it in like 2 seconds. And I was like, okay. And like other majors will teach you logic. You do not have to learn lo like it just happens. Everyone has their own like skill set. So I do think it's able to be learned, but I mean, I would say from what I'm hearing, as early as you can start, just go for it. Just do what you can.
Definitely. Yeah, like seeing how logic can be applied in all aspects of life, even I guess in middle school and high school. It's good to see that you can do so many things to help you prepare in the future. And I'm sure it's gonna start ramping up now, LSAT preparation. The only experience or anything that I've seen from the LSAT was from Legally Blonde, which I'm sure is not realistic at
Honestly,
all.
Legally Blonde is pretty realistic. I mean, what's important is your GPA and your LSAT. No one cares if you're majoring in polka dots and like or fashion.
Yeah,
It's
essentially,
actually
but
realistic.
but I'm sure you can't study while doing sit-ups and
Yeah, no, you
push-ups.
can do that.
Yeah, no,
I mean, maybe some people can. I don't think I could.
yeah, me neither, me neither. But that's really eye-opening again, and that's outstanding to hear that there's so many ways to interpret law, especially since your electrical engineer friend can also
That
apply.
actually pissed me off so much. I was like, nope, don't ever talk to me again.
Okay, wonderful. But yeah, it's such a that's just such a good thing to hear again. But looking back on your experience, is there anything you would do differently to prepare for your journey or anything you would have done differently, high school, college, etc.?
High school. I would say I want to make, I mean, I think I made a pretty big impact through the Governor's Youth Commission, but I think I would have liked to make an even bigger one. And I would have liked to put more time and effort into that than I did. For example, mock trial took up a lot of my time, and being editor-in-chief of my school newspaper took up a lot of my time. I would say I should have been more involved in the Arizona community than I think I was. And I don't think that was necessarily a cost because, again, it got me to Rice and I wouldn't trade any of the experiences I have for the world. But I think it would have been nice to have a little more knowledge about the Arizona community and know a little bit more about community engagement since a lot of the things I'm doing now in college kind of center around that. But honestly, no regrets. I'm pretty happy with how
That's
everything.
great. I know it's really early, but what kind of law schools are you considering? Like East Coast, West Coast? It doesn't have to be a definite answer, but I'm just really curious and I want to know.
This one's hard because Honestly, like when you go to Rice, it has to be the top schools. So, I mean, you could probably guess, probably all of the Ivy laws, the top schools are everywhere too. It doesn't have to be necessarily Ivy. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of like UVA, U Chicago, Boston University,
Mm,
all of them have
yeah.
great law schools. These are top-notch places that I'm also very partial to. I don't know how many I'm going to end up applying to. I applied to a lot of schools in my undergrad. I don't know if it's going to be the same process.
Mm.
I personally would love to go to the East Coast because I'm from Arizona and Texas, and I'm tired of not having snow. And I really want to see fall colors that are actually pretty. But I'm also very partial to city life. So if I ended up at like Berkeley Law, so San Francisco, that would also be great. I know not as many fall colors or at all, but it's a city, and I would love that. So I think. In terms of what law schools I'm considering, it really is just about like ranking, which I fear is probably too shallow. But I also really care about location in terms of city because you get a lot of opportunity in those areas. And in my opinion, like it helps you figure out where you want to settle because I've never really lived in like a city before. Houston is a very like laid out kind of area, and
Mm.
Rice is like its own little bubble. So I think it'll help me figure out where I want to settle after law school.
Yeah, that's amazing because again, city, like it affects your mood, the seasons affect your mood. And in Texas, like one day it'll be 80 degrees
Oh
and
my
then the
God.
next day it'll be like 40.
No one warned me about Texas bipolarism because Arizona is like consistent, at least. It's bad, but it's consistent. Texas, oh my God, Houston is horrible. I don't know how y'all survive living here.
Yeah, I know. We are enclosed in our house. Like I
Yeah,
don't go outside.
period. That's
Yes.
what I need to start doing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, especially during this winter season. But again, one of the things that I've kind of been set about, like my parents don't really understand, but season affects your mood a
It
lot.
really does. It really
Yes.
does.
Yeah, like seasonal depression is one of like the biggest things I've heard. So it's good to see that college necessarily isn't all about like, oh, the academics here or academics there, but more about how I feel as a person or how I'm gonna grow.
Yeah.
So this next section is one of my favorite parts about this podcast as it provides insight to not only my future, but to many teenagers or even adults who are struggling with what to pursue.
Mhm.
Which leads me to say, for students who are just beginning on this path or already there, what advice would you give to someone just starting college and thinking about law?
Starting college and thinking about law, I would say take the classes because you're not going to regret it. And like if you end up not liking it, you end up not liking it, but you're not going to regret the knowledge that comes with it. In my opinion, knowledge of the law is something that everybody needs on some level. I mean, I wouldn't say I have enough knowledge to like make sure you've read the terms and agreements thing, service terms or whatever at the beginning. Like I still skip past that, but I have enough that when my friend almost got a speeding ticket the other day, he was asking me whether he should contest it or not. And I was like, honestly, Google will probably tell you better than I will, but I'm just going to tell you anyways. And it gives you cool stories. It gives you things to talk about. And again, yeah, just take the classes, see if you like it. I wouldn't say do an internship unless you're pretty much not like certain, but if you do an internship, make sure it's a little bit low commitment. Make it like a shadowing or an externship if you're not sure, because they will work you if you are like when I say they don't let you do things, I don't mean that they don't work you. They will work you. They just won't let you do things that are specifically super impactful or like lawyery. And so I wouldn't recommend doing internships unless you're a little bit more certain. But if you don't want to take any of the classes because you have a little bit too many credits to deal with, especially for my STEM majors, I know it's hard. So I would say then you can definitely look into doing some sort of internship. There's also plenty of like in high school pre-college programs that kind of teach you about law. There's not a lot of pre-law school programs for undergrad since pre-law school is just undergrad, but I mean, you can definitely look into options like that. And I guess my other thing would just be don't get scared because a lot of people will be like, okay, yeah, like you're poli-sci in English, so you're having it easy right now, which by the way, not true. But you're having it easy right now. Once you get to law school, that sounds horrible. You're gonna have the worst time of your life. Law school is like the worst thing to ever happen to anyone next to med school. It's true, I'm sure. I'm sure there's a reason people say that, but don't get scared. I mean, everything worth doing is gonna be a little bit hard. And if you're considering law, I would love to see more people in law. I would love to see more women of color in law, actually.
Yeah.
And I hate to know that a lot of people end up either giving up or not actually pursuing where we need them. So if you're interested, go for it. Not that if you're a white man, you shouldn't go for it, but just go for it. It's really interesting.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear since, again, women of color, I feel like it's sort of like a gray zone area whenever we think about stuff that isn't typical or what our parents say. So it's fantastic to hear that we have examples in the real world who are currently pursuing this law. Again, leading back to what you said, it is inevitable when things get difficult, things are going to get hard. I'm sure in high school you've seen that. I'm sure now you're seeing that.
Mhm.
So, what helped you stay motivated, especially when things feel overwhelming?
I think, again, I have a bit of a unique experience with this because I've always been told that I'm a very motivated person. I'm very duty and career driven. And I feel that I was like, I guess you could say, put on this earth to do the work that I'm planning on doing and that I do now. So, what keeps me motivated is knowing who I'm going to help and knowing that I am going to help and knowing that the world is broken and I'm here to fix it.
Mhm.
When it comes, sometimes it's not enough, sometimes it's really not, and sometimes you get burnt out and you really don't know what to do with yourself because at the end of the day, you can't pour from an empty cup. But I think motivation fails when, like, motivation can fail sometimes, and discipline will be the only thing that makes up for it. So staying in certain habits. Because of high school, I write in a planner every single day, pretty much. And because my high school made us do that. And actually, since fifth grade, they made us write in like a planner. What a high school. Anyways, but yeah, like now I have a planner and I don't plan anything out on my computer. And even if I'm lazy, because it helps me keep things organized. And habits like that, little things like that can make your life so much easier because now I have one place to look at everything and I know what's going on at all times. And people are like, "You're so organized." I'm like, "I am." And it's like, yeah, because I just have these habits that if I hadn't made them before, I wouldn't have the motivation to do them anymore. But now that I've made them, they're impossible to break. And I think at the end of the day, like you are going to lose motivation. And most likely you're going to experience burnout at some point in your life. If not in high school, then in college. I mean, I've experienced it in high school. I know people who experience it in college. I know people who have both. When that happens, you're going to need a reminder of why you do what you do. And honestly, one thing that I do sometimes that helps me out is I write down why I do what I do. I did that once in high school, and it did help me to read back and realize that I was really trying to do something here. Even if I feel like I'm not doing enough or feel like I'm failing at it, it doesn't really matter when you care. And I guess my biggest piece of advice is find something you care about because that keeps you going through everything. It's kept me going through everything. I mean, on some level, it's like, yeah, I want to get into the top schools. I want to do this. But then it's not just that, because once you get into the top schools, you don't want to just be like, okay, I'm done. Like, let's move on. For me, I'm like, why do I want to go to the top schools? I want to go to the top schools so I can get the best education. I want to get the best education so I can help the most people in the best ways possible. And like, that is my ultimate goal. I get the best education at the top law school so that I can help the most people and that I can take on cases that other people won't take on and win them and help people. So, if you have that care and motivation, there's no way you're not going to be satisfied with your life, and burnout will happen, but you'll bounce back from it.
That's so, like, again, fantastic to hear because number one, discipline. My mom is always saying this to me. Discipline is what is going to get you through, and having those habits. Like my Google Calendar right now is holding on by a thread.
Mhm.
And so discipline is what gets you through things. But again, this heartfelt necessity that you want to make an impact and you want to do is so vast and so amazing to hear because that's again what keeps you motivated. And again, like you said, motivation won't get you through everything. That's when discipline discipline sets in. But it's good to see that now I know, oh, I need to start making habits now as a ninth grade. I know you said since fifth grade you've been planning things out. So I need to keep continuing, or our audience needs to keep continuing writing things down and keeping things set, which is great to hear. So, to close things out, let's talk about the future and what you're hoping to accomplish. Thinking about the long term and the big picture, where do you see yourself in 10 years?
10 years. Okay, I'm 19
Or
right
even
now.
5 to 10 years. What's your range?
I think 5 years I'll have just finished law school. So actually, I'll just graduated law school in 5 years. So I would say hopefully doing a cute little job at a DA's office. Very cute, I know. I would love to start out at a DA's office, just working in certain, probably a domestic violence unit or a crimes against children unit. That would be my biggest thing. I think in like 10 years, I would love at some point to work for a major daily. So like if I could work for the New York Times, I mean, I'm not sure they'll just take a random lawyer out of the middle of her field, but I think just on the side, maybe writing for major dailies for a lot of news organizations, that would be really cool.
Mm,
I'd love to have probably a government job at some point in my life. Technically, TA is a government job, but what I mean is like Department of Defense, Department of Justice, things
mm.
like that. I guess I see myself kind of, I guess you could say in the White House, but not really as a political actor or someone who gets voted in, but more as an official. So something along those lines would be really cool.
Yeah, the like I said, those are also diversified in their own ways, which is good that you're open to a lot of different things and how it can contribute to your career. And again, this goes back to my main point of saying nothing is set in stone. There's so much flexibility. I feel in the legal world too. So let's end with a purpose. How do you hope to make a difference throughout your legal career?
How do I hope to make a difference? I hope like a lot of people will focus on impact in the biggest way possible. How many lives can I change? How many people can I help? And I think about that a lot. And I really do want to do that. But I think I will be satisfied if I have brought one rapist to justice. I will be
Mhm.
satisfied if I have prevented one pedophile from being out on the streets. I will be satisfied. I mean, actually, let's be serious. I probably won't be satisfied, but I'll be happy. I'll be knowing that I'm doing the work that I want to do. And I think I just hope that I know one person cannot fix the justice system, but I just hope that I do something in there. I do something that makes it a little bit more of what it was intended to be when it was first created. I hope I restore some level, some semblance of faith in the justice system for the people around me. And I hope I inspire more passion and love for not just law, but for actually going into the justice system and reporting and trying to get justice for things and people not running away from it and people actually going. And right now it's such a contentious time, especially for the government, for the justice system, for everything happening. People are losing faith everywhere. I'm losing faith, for God's sake. I don't even want to touch the justice system right now. But I'm hoping that hopefully after a certain time, I can help change that and I can help restore people's belief that there's a reason we created these systems. At the end of the day, humans created these systems to help one another, to make sure that the worst of the worst are put behind bars and that our society is safe and our society is okay to continue. But there's just so many mishaps, so many things go wrong, so many innocent people are put behind bars, and so many guilty people walk free. And I'm not saying I'm going to get every single innocent person out and every single guilty person
Mhm.
away, but just one person fighting makes such a difference. And one impact, one thing, one person looking at me and saying, "Thank you. I never thought this was going to happen. I thought it was over. I thought I would have to, I don't know, live with this rapist for the rest of my life. I thought I was going to see him out on the streets. I thought I was going to be abused for the rest of my life. Anything like that. If I can change one person's life, if I can look them in the eyes and think I did something good today, I'm going to be happy."
This is so special, and it's really touching my heart to hear this because, again, we don't see people who are like this passionate these days. And I'm so happy that I can have you on my podcast because this is so enlightening and so heartfelt to hear. Because, again, the younger generation is what is going to change the world,
Exactly.
essentially, is what I believe. And to see people who are actually wanting to target these sort of people that should never be on the street, should never even be able to live like a regular person is amazing, amazing to hear. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Saahithi, for taking the time to share your story and experiences. It was really interesting and inspiring to hear your perspective. I know this will be helpful for many students who are curious about law and college life and essentially what they're going to do. And to our audience, thank you so much for everyone listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.